Hi, I am Dr. Sonali, and today we are going to talk about the respiration and gas exchange. What is respiration? What is the use of respiration? How many types of respiration we know? And then we are going to talk about the human respiratory system, how it works, what are the different parts of the human respiratory system, and what exactly happens when we say it is respiration. So let's see. Further, these are the learning objectives for today's class where we should be able to know that what respiration is, and respiration releases energy. That means what? Why do we require energy? What is the purpose of this energy? Then we should be able to write down the Bird equation as well as the chemical equation for the respiration process. What is aerobic respiration? What is anaerobic respiration? And what are the basic differences between the aerobic as well as anaerobic respiration? And later on, once we understand the complete overview about the respiration, exact process of the respiration, we are going to see the parts of human respiratory system as well as the functioning of human respiratory system. So let's see further. When you hear the word respiration, what comes into your mind? What is respiration? Breathing. Is breathing a respiration? Yes, it is. What else? So the exchange of gases, that inhalation and exhalation that occurs through your nose and mouth, can be considered as a breathing, and we can say that yes, it is respiration. Apart from that, when in your lungs, the lungs, they bring the oxygen or oxygen rich air from the outside environment, and that oxygen enters into your bloodstream, and from your bloodstream, from the impure blood, the carbon dioxide enters to your lungs, and that will be exhaled. So that process we can consider as the gas exchange. So the breathing and gas exchange can be considered as the respiration. Yes, it can be. It is respiration. But is it something else which we can include as respiration? So for answer for that is cellular respiration. So there is one more term here which we consider as the cellular respiration, which is nothing but the metabolism. What is metabolism? Any idea what metabolism is? So metabolism is nothing but when you consume the food. So whatever food you have consumed, in the presence of oxygen, it breaks down into carbon dioxide and water, and in addition to that, it produces a certain amount of energy. And that is what the purpose of this respiration is. So breathing, gas exchange, and third part is cellular respiration. So this is the whole process of respiration. Where it occurs? Breathing occurs so at the outside, so that means nose and mouth, so it can be considered as the external respiration. Gas exchange occurs inside your body between the lungs and the bloodstream. It is considered as the internal respiration. And the third part of this is metabolism, which occurs at each and every cell of your body, of your organs. So that is called as the cellular respiration. So this we can consider as the respiration, and this is the energy which we are talking about, is nothing but we want to correlate over here with this energy, right? So we can say that here, whatever energy, whatever tasks we perform, we breathe in, we digest our food, our heart circulates the blood throughout our body, our excretory system functions. So for all these life processes, we require a certain amount of energy. Apart from that, various tasks that we perform, like I'm teaching to you, so I'm speaking, or if I'm writing with the help of pen, you are listening, you are concentrating whatever I'm saying. So all these things, my hands are moving, I stand up, I start walking. So all these things requires a certain amount of energy. So this is how this energy is useful for this. So our life processes, various tasks that we perform, these cell division, molecules, synthesis, hormones, enzymes, everything, whatever biological reactions, physiological reactions takes place inside our body, they all require a certain amount of energy, and that's what we get out of respiration, right? In addition to that, some amount of heat is also generated and lost, and that helps to maintain the temperature of our body, that helps to maintain the thermostat of our body. So that's how we get acclimatized to the environmental changes. So respiration, if I talk about the respiration, we have by process we have two kind of respiratory processes. In that we can say that when it occurs with oxygen, it is aerobic respiration, but when the oxygen is absent, sometimes there are certain organisms which are anaerobic in nature. That means they can survive without oxygen, right? So when the organisms, they do the respiration without oxygen, for example, yeasts are there, some bacteria are also there. So in that case, we will say that this is the anaerobic respiration, right? So anaerobic respiration we can see in some yeasts, bacteria, etc. The organisms which live very deep into the sea, they don't get ample amount of oxygen for the respiration, so they rely on the anaerobic respiration. So we will look at the aerobic respiration first. Aerobic respiration, as I had just mentioned, that glucose, when it burns in presence of oxygen, burns or it breaks down, it forms carbon dioxide and water. If you look at this reaction, can you recall the process of photosynthesis? What happens in photosynthesis? Exactly opposite to this. So if I draw this arrow in this direction, and if I write here the solar energy, it becomes the reaction of photosynthesis. That means when these raw materials like carbon dioxide and water, in presence of solar light, sunlight, they form the food, that is glucose, and in addition to that they will release the oxygen in the environment, right? So now, well, we are right now focusing on respiration, not on the photosynthesis, but the purpose of mentioning that was to get to know that these are the raw materials of this. So that means these end products are basically the simplest form of materials. So glucose completely breaks down. So this is completely break down into carbon dioxide, water, and it produces lots of energy. So this is glucose. In presence of oxygen, it forms carbon dioxide, water, and energy. You must be thinking why this 6 oxygen, 6 carbon dioxide, 6 water, why have we put these coefficients or these numbers in front of these molecules? So that is a part of chemistry, but you must know that whenever we write down any equation, any chemical equation, we must balance the equation. Balance means the number of atoms of the reactants must be equal to all the number of atoms of the product. Like you have 6 carbon over here, so we must have 6 carbon here. If you have 12 hydrogen, so we must have 12 hydrogen. So 6 into 2 gives you 12, right? So similarly here you have 18 oxygen, so 6 and 12, 18 hydrogen. So this is how we have to balance the equation. So well, coming back to the aerobic respiration, this is what a balanced chemical equation and the word equation for the aerobic respiration, and which is the cell organelle which is responsible to carry out the aerobic respiration. So the answer would be mitochondria. We know that mitochondria is also called as the powerhouse of the cell. Why do we call it as the powerhouse of the cell? Because it generates energy. This energy is generated in the powerhouse or the mitochondria, which is found in the cytoplasm of the cell. So here this utilizes oxygen, carries out in the mitochondria, and it carries out Krebs cycle, it carries out electron transport chain, and through this it synthesizes certain amount of energy. On the contrary, there are certain cells which carry out anaerobic respiration. Now, anaerobic respiration, as we had already mentioned, it is respiration without oxygen. This is also called as fermentation, and this is done by the yeast cells. So, whole beverage industry is dependent upon that only. It produces alcohol or it produces acids. So the end products won't be carbon dioxide and water, but the end products in anaerobic respiration would be alcohol or acid. So your glucose gets converted into ethanol. That means this is which kind of breakdown? This is incomplete breakdown. They haven't reached yet to the CO2 plus H2O level. They haven't reached here, but they are still in an organic molecule form. So it is very clear that now the amount of energy that would be produced will be some energy. That means less energy. It won't produce a lot of energy. It will produce less amount of energy. Why? The reason is it is incomplete breakdown. Whole chemical bonds have not been broken, so whole energy will not be released, right? So yeast cells, they carry out the fermentation process where alcohols are formed, and this is another example, a very interesting one. Everyone might have faced this situation once in our life, or more than once also. So this clip I have taken from a news channel. So where you can see when an athlete is running and some situation comes that he is not even able to walk because he is feeling cramps into his legs. What is the reason behind that? The reason behind that is nothing but the example of respiration without oxygen. So in this case, what happens as a result of this insufficient amount of oxygen which reaches to the legs of the, because see, the person is running, so he requires a lot of energy. His muscle cells, they require a lot of energy, and that is why what will happen when its blood won't be able to supply enough amount of oxygen which is required. So here what will happen? Less oxygen. Which kind of respiration? Anaerobic respiration. So as anaerobic respiration takes place, it is very clear that the glucose won't get converted into neither carbon dioxide nor water. It will get converted into some acid, and here in the muscles, the acid which forms is lactic acid, and some energy. Again, the less amount of energy. So that is why what happens, the muscles will get fatigued and the person has cramps in the legs, and sometimes this situation becomes so critical that person feel the oxygen debt and don't be able to walk for a while, right? So these are the examples of anaerobic respiration. Let's quickly go over the differences between the aerobic and anaerobic respiration. So here, as you can see, aerobic uses oxygen while anaerobic carries out in absence of oxygen. It occurs in the mitochondria. We had just seen mitochondria is called as the powerhouse of the cell, and it carries out most of the aerobic respiration, while anaerobic respiration takes place in the cytoplasm. It releases lots of energy, while if you talk about the anaerobic respiration, only a small amount of energy will be formed. Carbon dioxide and water are the end products, while In case of anaerobic respiration, what will be the end product? Alcohol or acid. So these could be the end product of these processes. So this is how we have seen how many types of respiration are there. We have compared aerobic and anaerobic respiration. Then we have seen what exactly the respiration is, external, internal, what process goes on. So now we have seen that the breathing is an external respiration where the inhalation and exhalation takes place. Now, do we have certain system which supports exhalation and inhalation? How this exhalation and inhalation takes place? How this gas exchange takes place? Like I had mentioned that oxygen from the air will enter into the bloodstream, and from the bloodstream carbon dioxide will go into the air which has to be exhaled. So how this system works? So to understand that, we must know about the human respiratory system. So let's go over quickly. I'll just give you a little idea about the structure of the human respiratory system, and in the next class we are going to see about the functioning of the gaseous exchange system. So this is the human respiratory system. If you see over here, the nose and mouth, these two will be considered as the external respiratory systems where the air will be taken in and air will be exhaled. So carbon dioxide will be exhaled and oxygen will be inhaled. What happens further? You have this windpipe. So we can say this is the windpipe. In a layman language, we say windpipe, which gets separates into two branches over here, and these branches enters into the lungs. So as you can see, this is your trachea. This portion is called as trachea. This one, this enters into the lungs further by dividing into two. So these are the lungs. Apart from that, lungs, they are the vital organs. Our heart, our lungs, these are the vital organs. So how they are protected? So they are protected inside the cage, which is made up of ribs. So ribs, we have to protect our vital organs. Apart from that, these ribs have, like, ribs are like this. You have this your vertebral column, and with this you can see these are the ribs, which basically, so other end is floating, right? Just they are connected at one end only, and inside this a cage like a thing will form, and that in the lungs will be protected inside that. So these also have muscles in between, right? So these muscles basically help in the contraction and relaxation, so that the area or volume of your thoracic cavity will increase, decrease, increase, decrease. That will build up the pressure, and it helps in the exhalation and inhalation. What is the other thing we have that is going to support in exhalation and inhalation? That is our diaphragm. So diaphragm is nothing but a partition which is found between this abdominal cavity and the thoracic cavity. Its function is also the same as the intercostal muscle. So both of these together do the or support the exhalation and inhalation. Then these are called as this trachea, then bronchus, right? And these bronchus basically are nothing but these parts which, or the branches which enter into the lungs. So this is bronchi. One will be bronchus and plural will be bronchi. And this bronchi further, as you can see, forms different networks. So again, further branches. It forms further branches just to enhance the exchange or to increase the surface area, so that, so here some alveoli, these circulatures are there. Suppose you have a tube and you connect it with the balloon and you blow the air, so your balloon will be blown up. So the same concept you can apply here to visualize, to understand this thing. So as you can see here, these are the alveoli where the actual gas exchange will take place. So your blood vessels will be like this. In the blood vessel, carbon dioxide filled air, blood will be there, and from here you have inhaled oxygen rich air. So here the oxygen will come into the bloodstream, and from bloodstream carbon dioxide will go back to the lungs. So this is called as the gas exchange. And then these are the membranes which basically protect your lungs. So this is how you have all the structures in the human respiratory system. And this is just a overview of the different parts of the gas exchange system. In the next class I will be going to explain you, like we will see that what are the structures and their functions. So I'm just showing you at this moment. We will discuss this in much detail in the next class.